seeing them up close. We're not meant to share the planet with those things. They're Earth's new apex predators. But one day we're gonna beat them.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 science fiction thriller Elevation. The film is directed by George Nolfi and it stars Anthony Mackie, Marina Baccarin and Maddie Hassan. Now the film is something of a post-apocalyptic film. It's set 3 years after the event, and the event being these creatures that have funneled up from the Earth and essentially wiped out 95% of the human population. On the brink of extinction, humanity discovers that the only way to stay safe is to go above 8,000 feet. These creatures will not go beyond that point, and you can live a safe life above that. However, it's not really much of an existence. Nobody's ever killed one of these creatures, and Anthony Mackie's character has got a young son, Hunter, who is very ill. He needs some oxygen. There's none left, so he has to go down into the city in order to go to the hospital to search for this oxygen that his son needs. He takes 2 people with him, Marina Baccarin's character Nina, who is a scientist who believes she has a method that may help them kill these creatures, and Katie, who essentially refuses to let Anthony Mackie's character go on his own. Do they make it there in one piece? Well, you'll have to watch the film to find out. Right, what are my thoughts on Elevation? Well, at face value, this kind of seems like a bit of a throwaway, like sci-fi film. It feels quite a generic plot in a lot of ways. You know, these days we're getting a lot of these horror films, you know, obviously A Quiet Place, that kind of stuff, that kind of do a little twist on the senses, that sort of thing. And this one essentially is Altitude in regards to the safe place for humanity. I like the idea of this. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more about the downfall of humanity. We don't get any of that other than like, excuse me, some like news reports right at the beginning of the film, but you don't even see them, you just hear them, and then you kind of introduced to these societies living above 8,000 feet. The characters are all okay. I mean, they're not massively fleshed out or anything. They give Anthony Mackie's character a bit of a backstory in the sense of his wife is dead now because she went off with the Marina Baccarin's character to because she felt like there was a way to kill these creatures. Didn't turn out to be the case, and his wife was killed, so he really doesn't like Nina, this character, but they have to work together, sort of thing. And the real aspect of this film that kind of is supposed to kind of keep you on edge is the fact that as soon as they go below 8,000 feet, they are at risk at any time of these creatures, and there's no way of knowing other than this fairly unreliable meter that Nina's got to kind of let them know if there's any earth tremors on the coming, sort of thing. So there are a number of times on the journey where they have to drop below 8,000 feet in order to get to Boulder, the place where he needs to get his oxygen. And those are the times really where the film is probably at its best in regards to thrills. And it does genuinely at times, excuse me, have you almost like on the edge of your seat. These creatures, there's one scene in particular I thought was, well, there's a couple actually, but they're both well done. The first one you see a glimpse of in the trailer where they have to kind of get to this point, and the risk they've got to take is, right, do we run that way or do we use this ski lift, but it might be broken, and they're not really given them much of a choice. So it's quite a well done scene, that, in a sense of, you know, they are really a great deal of risk, and can they get this ski lift kind of thing going in time? And that was quite quite very well done. There's another scene as well where they go underground and they're very much at risk again. And again, I thought that was well done, and it kind of kept you engaged throughout. Every time the creatures are introduced to this film, I think it's done quite well. They don't overexpose them, they don't overuse them, they don't over-explain them. I suspect much of that is being left for a potential sequel, because it doesn't really give you any answers. It hints at a couple of things, but it doesn't really give you any answers of where these creatures came from, and especially why are they safe from 8,000 feet onwards. What is the reason behind that? As I've said, it gives a couple of hints here and there, but it obviously leaves the door open in case this does well enough to warrant a potential sequel. And I would definitely be open for seeing more of this. I thought it was, well done. Sometimes these things can be, I don't know what the right word is, way too generic and corny to really be overly interesting. I think this kind of gets the balance just right. It takes itself seriously. There's no like comedy sidekicks going on. It's one of those. It's not one of those films that feels like it needs a romance or a comedy sidekick to kind of keep the interest up. It keeps you engaged with the whole concept of what it is, and it does it quite well. Yes, it is incredibly predictable. I think you could probably say everything that. Once you understand the premise of the film and what they have to do, you can kind of map out in your head how it's going to go, because they give you the clues, in regards to what's going to happen. You go below 8,000 feet, you're at risk. So therefore, every time they go below 8,000 feet, guess what? They're at risk. And there's a few other things in the film. I don't want to, over spoil any plots or anything, but there's no evidence to suggest that anyone's killed one of these creatures. Marina Baccarin's character Nina is obsessed with finding a way of killing these creatures. Again, you can kind of map out the way it's kind of going to go. So yeah, I thought this was well made. I thought this was just going to be a fairly basic. I knew it was going to have a certain amount of polish to it because of the cast involved, and it definitely has that. And I thought the effects for the creatures were pretty well done. I enjoyed the design of them. It gives characters an interesting premise. How do you kill these things? They've got armor like, well, nothing that we've ever seen. There's no bullets can penetrate it, so it almost makes it farcical that they're taking weapons at all, because they have absolutely no impact on these creatures. So I honestly thought this was just going to be, a watchable, if very, very forgettable, generic, like, monster film. And it's not. It's well made, and I think the concept and how well it's made and the performances kind of elevate it a bit. I think if this, was done with a smaller budget, with lesser known actors and lesser talent on board, it probably would have been what I thought it was going to be, but it actually does manage to elevate it. It also reminded me a little bit of the Tomorrow War, the Chris Pratt film from 2020, something like that. That was the Amazon Prime film, I think. I'm a big fan of that film. I really liked that. Similar concept in that film, these creatures come up, white sparks are they called, essentially wipe out the population. The only difference between that film and this, there's a few differences, is in the Tomorrow War it's like a time travel film as well. But it plays around with a similar concept. This one is where I'm trying to get at. So yeah, I think this is definitely worth checking out, guys, if you like a good sci-fi thriller that's well made and it has some genuine edge of the seat moments, some really fun, tense moments in the film. I think you'll probably enjoy it. So thanks for checking out this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.